Thank you, dears, for having you back for this second part. We exchanged a lot of great ideas and different way of approach. Uh, Now I would like to ask because one of the coaches already mentioned something. It depends on the opponent and all this. I wanted to ask, adapting to the opponent, what is some of the general advices we can speak about? What do you think, Coach Zili, about adapting to the opponent? Different opponents, different playing. Coach Eelco mentioned this. Other coaches mentioned already. If the one team is pressing, man marking oriented. If some of them are more focused on certain zones, they have their different traps, different points where they want you to go. Yeah, if you can illuminate.
Yeah, adaptation is a crucial point in football in general. But the main idea is to adapt, but not to lose our principles. So you must first analyze the opposition in terms of if you have the access of obviously to video analysis and so on to see what is their approach in different types of pressing traps they want to set for you, and then based on that, you have to adapt in the way that you want to predict and anticipate how you want to build up. So if they're, for example, maybe if they're pressing with a two-man striker, maybe you need to build with three coming out from the back, or if they're pressing with three, maybe now you have to add another player. So it's always about understanding if they want to press more centrally, then you need to probably push the play more out wide. If they're pressing more in the wider areas and overloading the press on one side, now maybe you're looking to switch diagonally. And this is not to go necessarily talking about long ball or so on. It's more like about a pass. Can we now skip that line of pressure onto the other side and then find the space onto the other side? One thing that kind of stuck out this idea for me a long time ago was when Gary Kasparov, the great chess grandmaster, had a friendship and meeting in New York with Pep Guardiola. And the thing that he kind of instilled in him at that point is like he told him, Pep, you cannot attack the same way as if you're on the mountaintop versus if you are in the valley. So that if you kind of digest that and metaphorically into add it into football, it's the same idea. So the approach to build from the back, it cannot be the same depending all in how the play is commanding from your opponent. And then from there, with your principles, you can continue and do what you want to do. So
Yep, you're totally right. But I would like to add the point that we as coaches, depending on the level you are, we're all professional coaches, and we're always trying to mainly be focused on the first teams. But if you're a little bit more maybe with youth, not always depends on the environment you're working. Sometimes you can make analysis of the opposition, how they play, so you can kind of prepare the team. Is I think two components: game preparation and reading the game, because everything can happen differently. You see this team is playing before all the time, then they're starting building up different. You as coach need to know how to high press, but also maybe they can change certain way how they would like to play. Maybe they are not playing in certain way that you would see them that always playing. Maybe they have a lot of rotation, so you need to
yeah,
know how they.
I
Yeah,
just want
when I
to.
press and when I build up, when they are pressing me, maybe they're pressing me with one, but maybe now this time they're in a middle block, or maybe in the other side they used to force the play in, but in this scenario with you they're forcing the play out, and then you need to know what are the points that you can make.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's about preparing, but it's also about reading the game as coach.
just one last thing I want to add to what you said. At the end, it becomes back what you do in the training ground. In the training ground, you must now adapt and create those scenarios for your players and challenge them all the time
Yeah,
where they can understand that they can do A, B, C, possibly D and E and F maybe.
yeah.
So that's where it comes from the
It's
training
all
ground.
about decision making, right? It's all about decision making. We as coaches, we can prepare a team certain way, but then they need to be kind of ready for any type of situation. Yes, Coach Eelco.
The first thing, I don't like to talk too much about the opponent when, at least with my teams. But of course, you need to prepare against a team that you're going to face because in the end, you need to win. The first thing I will always look at is the formation they play. And that means how does that formation line up against mine? If two teams are 4-4-2, it's everywhere basically 1v1. But if a team plays, for instance, one of the most or that's a modern way of playing these days, 5-2-3, and I play 4-3-3. It becomes the team that plays 5-2-3, those two floating players or those two number 10s, who picks them up? That's very important for me, that players have a clear idea when two formations meet, like who is responsible for who. That's the first thing that I want them to know about the opponent. Secondly, if I look for weaknesses, the first thing I always look at is the way the opponent is pressing. That means that starts most of the time with the wingers, and wingers most of the time are a bit lazy, unless you have a team with very active wingers. But that's one of the first things, or the weaknesses that I look for in an opponent. How do they press? That means, do they press on the center back, or do they follow our wing back? So I will try to use that space. And the opposite way, I remember I played against one team where the wingers were extremely lazy, that my wing backs only had to make overlaps, constantly make overlaps, and eventually you will score from that, or you will create the chances from that. At the last thing, you look at individual qualities, and that is during the game. And Coach Niccolo said he had a girlfriend before from Holland, and it was from Emmen. And I remember when I was working in Holland, and I was as an assistant coach in my beginning career, we played against that team, and it was freezing. The field was completely frozen. And I tried to visualize it for you. The playmaker of the opponent team, the number 10, was playing against we're playing 4-3-3, other team play 4-2-3-1. And the number 10 was very light-footed, and our number 6 was like very heavy and couldn't follow him. So the head coach was talking, what do we do? What do we do? How do we change this? Because they were constantly, we could not get grip on them because of that. I said, okay, take our playmaker, let him play against their playmaker, and we change it around. No, we cannot do that. But the moment after 10 minutes he decided to do that, it changed the game. You get more grip on the game. So I got my playmaker playing against their playmaker, although he was playing on a number 6. So you need to use quality, see what qualities are of the opponent, and we'll finish with that. I remember being like when I was assistant coach, you're also responsible for the second team in Holland, and the second team could not relegate. They play on the highest level in Holland, but I tried every possible thing during a game I could do if I was behind. Sometimes played with 5 midfielders, where you create a square and an extra in the midfield. So to try to all kinds of plan B ways of manipulating the opponent. And from these things, you learned a lot during the game. Eventually, later in my career, and to read the opponent and have ways in trying to manipulate them.
Yes. For me, I would like to share my way of approach. For me, I try to focus a lot what is majority of the time the opposition team targeting or aiming. Are they aiming us to stop us from even making a link between the center back to the midfielders? What is their way of approach? They're trying to force us in, they're trying to force us out. What is their target, their objective is pressing? Do they want us to deny to even make a first pass from the beginning? Because sometimes they're very aggressive. As soon as the ball is traveling from the goalkeeper to the center back, they already started the press. So these are already very aggressive, But sometimes they're just on a high block and they're just waiting you to make that mistake. And as you mentioned, very important to know how to adapt with all these situations. Yes, Coach Eugene.
I would really like to elaborate in my point of view. As Coach Eelco mentioned, there are certain different coaches. Certain coaches, they would like to adapt on the opponent, and certain coaches, they just stick with their own game model, and they have their own team identity that they stick on. Not necessarily they need to stick with the opponent. In my perspective, I do have to have some information about the opponent itself. What system of play the opponent is playing. Need to conduct the opponent analysis. When I do the opponent analysis, I need to know the hit zone. When we do the data analysis, we need to see which areas they are usually more aggressive on their pressing, what system they prefer to play, how can we contravene the system of pressing that they're playing. We need to have an assessment, total assessment to evaluate the opponent. How many forwards they are having, the different line of pressure, first line of pressure, second line of pressure.
Yeah, I would say
third
it
line
will
of
be more in
pressure.
the, I guess, in the professional, the very professional level, you know.
Yes,
I
definitely in the
think it's
first
too
teams
much
and senior
details.
teams.
It's a little bit tough. If you're coaching, for example, under 15, under 16, I think it should be a mixture between what the coach said. It's more about you focusing on your own game model, and then yes, you're trying to prepare for the way how the opposition is pressing. Okay, did I ask you, Coach Wais? I asked you, right? Okay, Coach Niccolo. I'm sorry because I'm sorting the.
No problem. Like you said, if we want to give help to coaches that don't have all the technology at disposal, they are not able to see, they have to adapt the day of the game because they don't have maybe videos to prepare the game. I think teach your players to be able to count. So first thing, make them understand if they're pressing with 6 or if they're pressing man by man. And this is very easy, like I said before. You have to explain to your goalkeeper and defender to look the defensive line and see how many players are there. If there are 4, we play. If there are 3, is the other option. During the week, work in these 2 options. When they come to play with 6, I work in different kind of pressure. That is 2-3-1, 1-3-2, or 1-4-1. And then you develop these 8v6 a lot. Sometimes I also use the striker in front to protect and use the third man. So not always you can have different option also with the use of striker in front that or a wing that have to be able to protect the ball. And last thing, try to play where the opponent don't want that you play. So like you said before, if they come to press you and they want to bring you out, you have to be able to play in. How? With the third man. So if I can make a key pass, I make a key pass. If I'm not able to make a key pass, I have to use a third man to play where they don't want. And in football, the ways that I'm experiencing is normally the striker that try to close the pass between center defender so you can bounce the ball. The other one, they want to bring you inside, so you have to bounce to arrive to the fullback. And the last one, like you said, they're more maybe in a 4-4-2, more compact. Then maybe the third man can be more direct to find the number 6.
I actually,
so these things work in training.
I'm actually very happy you mentioned this part, you know, that, you know, counting, you know, make your team already thinking to become like mini coaches in the field. This is very important, you know, them not just like, you know, get to do it, but actually understanding the situation. This is part of the vision. But as you mentioned, a small detail, and I would like to add is, you know, you need to see, okay, the opponent is pressing, but is that back 4 committing or not? This is a big difference. That back 4, okay, they're pressing with 6, but are they pressing with 6 just isolated as 6 and the back 4 is waiting in the middle of the field? Let's say when we're speaking build up against high pressing. Is that back 4 following as a full team or they're detached? 4 they're waiting in the middle and 6 are pressing? Because as you mentioned, you know, you can make a numerical advantage. Your players can starting from the deep areas drop and then you make a numerical advantage 8v6, 9v6, 7v6.
I only add one thing. This is what I do at least.
Yes.
Of course, you need at least or 2 or 3 players to pin the defensive line, no? To don't allow them to come. What I like to do, if I use 2 players, I ask them to move between center defender and fullback.
Yeah.
Because if they are too central, the center defender, for them is easy to mark them. But if you stay in that area, gray area is more difficult, or you pin them with 3. And then just to give an explanation, what I said is from this starting point. Of course, if you only pin them with 1 player, everything go. I mean, what I said doesn't make sense.
Yes. No, it actually makes sense as you mentioned. Yes. This is about width and depth. It's about width and depth.
I'd like to elaborate a few more points, if it's possible.
Yes, but it will be very fast because we have other things we have to cover.
As a point of view, as I mentioned, when if we are deciding to adapt to the opponent itself, I mentioned about the different lines of pressure. Also, we need to know about the gaps between the different lines of pressure. We need to know how short, how tall the team it is between different lines.
This is an important part. Yeah.
The pressing triggers is a big one. Also, is that we need to know what kind of block the opponent is playing. Are they sitting in a low block? Are they defending in the mid block? Or are they ultra offensive pressing? We need to adapt based on that, but we need to evaluate also the way of pressure, how they are forcing, how they press vertically, how they press horizontally, how they stretch the team while they're pressing, how synchronized the pressurizing team it is. So by evaluating the opponent, we are able to come and countervene the way and approach how how the opponent is playing. Based on the system they play, we are able to countervene with our system. So it's a big one, the data analysis, or we call it quantitative analysis or the qualitative analysis as well. Both of them are a huge factor.
Okay, perfect. I would want a quick summary, but very quick one about how to build up versus high pressing, because many coaches, when it comes to high pressing, let's say not high pressing just when a team is waiting on a high block, but when a team is actually even denying you to even receive the first ball from the goalkeeper. For example, me as a coach, I already play against Coach Nico. He already know. It's very hard when a coach, for example, me, many times I even want to deny the opponent to actually even receive the ball to center back, because I see simple details. For example, with which foot is playing the center back, right center back with the right foot, left center back with the left foot. I try to block his dominant foot, and then different ways how to even deny them to actually receive the ball under pressure. What do you guys can give as advice for the coaches out there, maybe according to your experience? How are you able to build up when the opponent is very aggressive and pressing as a full team, even denying you to receive the ball from the center back? Yes, Coach Eelco.
There are two things. One of the things I mentioned in the beginning, this is very difficult to explain. It would be easier. I have a rotation. I have a rotation between any two players on the field. It's called move around the ball. What does it mean? You always use the space behind you. Maybe it's easy if you remember Messi. Messi, sometimes he drops into the midfield, and then he plays the ball to one of the midfielders, and then he moves backwards behind him. It's a little bit difficult. It's not a 1-2 forward. It's basically a 1-2 backwards, a 1-2 combination backwards. This is a very easy way to kill pressure if the players understand this concept that I use. And secondly, the wing backs, you don't want them too much on the ball. If you let them drop far, so instead of going forward, but rather than drop far, you invite the players, mostly the wingers of the opponent, towards them. It creates more space forward, and they can take off the pressure of the center backs. But it's difficult to illustrate. But these two things are for me key with playing under pressure.
Perfect. Yes, guys, actually, we're running a little bit out of time. Coach Eugene, quick. Don't elaborate. Just quick.
I think furthermore, whatever Coach Eelco mentioned, great feedback. Basically, how I see it, we need to create a numerical advantage in different areas of the field. We need to know when the opponent is pressing, how many numbers they're pressing. Are they pressing with 2 forwards? Are they pressing with 3 forwards? Are they forcing the play in? Are they forcing the play out? Based on that, we're able to countervene the opponent. Overloading certain areas, creating those numerical advantages in different areas of the field, 4v2, 3v2, 5v3. Adding extra player is a big one from another line to make it more easy as an outlet to progress forward. So players in advanced position, they can drop. Another one is overloading one side to bring pressure. Then they're able to switch to the weak side. Overloading one side, bring pressure. And when the opponent is after you invite having some spaces behind it, we are able to penetrate it. So we need numbers in the strong area, and we need numbers in the weaker area to be able to switch it.
Clear.
Through good rotations, through good interchanging of positions. Another scenario, it can be also to make an illusion. So if I have a goal kick, this one is one of the scenarios that I like to use it with my team. If the goal kick is giving a signal to the entire team, it's going to be a long kick, but actually the fullbacks are cutting in, and automatically they are going in the wide areas to create different numerical advantage. And how to exploit also is another big one. I created a numerical advantage. How can I exploit this numerical advantage to progress forward?
Okay, Coach Niccolo, we're actually almost running out of time.
I think I already gave my point of view.
Yeah.
I think accounting already gave you an idea if you can play short or if you can be more direct with the third man. The only thing I want to add is that for us as coaches, I think we don't have to find excuse to don't play the ball, but we have to be able to improve our players. So I think the daily work is something that is very valuable, and sometimes we don't believe enough in our work during the week. And then we say, okay, we can play, the other team press very well, we go long. This is something we should avoid.
Yeah. Yes, Coach Zili, if you can tell us.
Oh, just the last thing I would like to add is that, in football, we're either attacking small spaces and defending big spaces, or we're attacking big spaces and defending small spaces. So in that sense, what I mean is when we try to build from the back, because the topic of our conversation here is building out from the back, is that we're attracting on us uh, as much numbers as possible, and then logically what happens is we're trying to create that space behind the opposition lines. So when you mentioned that sometimes they press so hard man to man oriented that we can't even breathe, then logically what you have to also think about is what was the whole purpose of this? It was to attract the whole opposition on us to create that space in behind. And then from time to time, if you can even fake short to go and attack that longer space. And even if the press is so intense that you can't breathe, after a couple of times of testing that out and attacking their back line, maybe they will think twice and try to drop the line a bit more. Then you have still more comfort to build from the back. So it's always a chess game of choosing, understanding space and where are the spaces, and you have to attack the spaces at all times.
Okay, dears. I just wanted to share my work with you, and then maybe we get a quick feedback from everyone. This is the recent book that I already completed. It's 25 positional games on building from the back. This is all about positional games. Surely every one of you guys have their own way of approach on how you would like to use build up on your training sessions, using on technical activities. Then you have your variations, etc., etc. Positional game, possession games, numerical advantage games. I wanted to go quick because within build up is a big area of you doing a lot of things, but also we have certain subtopics that I always try to focus. For example, playing under pressure. This is one of the exercises that I like to do, especially not just building up. For example, this positional game, we have two CDMs, two camps for a coach that like to play with 3-4-3, three players at the back, three neutrals. Each team, when they're starting, they reset the play from the jokers and try to penetrate. Penetrating means that we already progressed in another zone. So we are positioning our team according to our system of play. So let's say if this coach would like to play 3-4-3, we have two CDM, two camp, two wingers, and a striker. This is some of the exercise I would like to do. Here, when they're constantly are under pressure, same thing, 3-4-3, but we have three center backs from each zone, three jokers. His positional game, always trying to play under pressure. These are some of the subtopics I would like to work. Here is when we're playing with a 4-3-3. You have two wingers, but trying to focus on the center channel under pressure, Number 6, 8, and 10, two wingers, rotations, everything you can mention about your ideas. And the jokers represent the two fullbacks and the two center backs. Over here, switching the play from one side to the other side. But sometimes you can put certain restriction I would like to put for my team, which is more in terms of cannot pass to the same player, etc., etc. You cannot stop the ball. Same thing over here with switching the play from side to side. Here, if you're trying to play against high pressing team, if you already progress, you can score on the net 1 point, or if you can progress a little bit higher, the red team playing under pressure, they can score. So you already have your build up and progression. Here, any coach would like to have a certain build up. Field zone segmentations, how would you like? If one coach likes to have two players in one zone, another coach doesn't like. Half spaces, how to use the players. More structure in the team. Over here, how to break certain lines of pressure, You have zone 1, then you have zone 2. Zone 1, for example, if I break the first line of pressure, then how I can break the second line of pressure, etc., etc. Over here, trying to play forward, beat pressing line and scoring the goals. Over here, we have playing forward and trying to penetrate with a penetrating zone. Over here, the same thing, but you split the team according to their positions and with certain zones. How can I attack centrally more and how to attack through the center channel? Here, if I already progressed a little bit, how can I play against the middle block? Over here, we have how to play against middle block. What Coach Nico mentioned. For example, if the other team is pressing with 4-1, and then they have the other 4-1 a little bit more back, they're not actually committing. They're playing through. How is your methodology to deal against build up? Over here, if you want to make it in the beginning, let's say from the starting, because you cannot go to the 11th. 11 is the big picture. You need to kind of sort out the small picture. If they attack the space through the zones, or if they can receive the ball behind opposition's back and then go through these gates. This is another way how I would like to do if I start before the 11v11. Over here, the same thing. What Coach Nico mentioned, for example. Here I make a numerical disadvantage for the opposition team just to give more success to my team. If the other team, for example, is playing 4-4-2. But here I'm trying to focus more on depth. I have number 11, number 10, and number 7 more deep to keep them more isolated at the back, even if there are 4 at the back. It's going to be, for example, 4v3. And then how I can keep my depth, how I can keep my width, how I can utilize my time and space, how I'm manipulating time and space. Over here, for example, using width and depth. If my team is able to go all the way to the side, this is attacking. They receive 1 point because they already used the width. And if they are able to play deep, they receive another point. Over here, how are we able to create numerical advantage from one side to one side? Make like a square for them to make numerical advantage. Over here, simple, 2v2 plus 3, how to play under pressure. Over here, how can I connect 2 squares, 6, 8, and 10? Switch from one rondo to the other rondo. Each player is isolated in one box, and they're playing according to their position. Over here, the same thing, but playing with 3 at the back. Over here, the same thing, playing with 3 at the back from each side. They're already isolated, 6, 8, 10, 7, 9, 11. The front 6. Same thing over here, but with back 4. Over here, if I split the formation from the left side and the right side, the left side of the formation, the right side of the formation. Here a little bit more isolated. How if I want to keep a certain player to be 1v1? And